Welcome to another episode of How to Do Character Voices with the Beginner Player. This is just a series for your regular player with no voice acting experience to help you show up to your table and create an interesting personality that your players will remember. Before we start, as always, remember that it's okay to be silly, and whatever you do, it doesn't have to be perfect. So have fun with it. Today we're going to be doing Drow. Now, Drow are a really fun and interesting character archetype. Their whole philosophy, if you've read anything from R.A. Salvatore on the Drow, their whole philosophy and the world that he's kind of created about them is really interesting. It's brutal, but it's very interesting. Basically, their whole hierarchy is just one of backstabbing to get into higher positions. Like, they're really conniving and distrustful. They view trust as weakness. So the voice we're going to be doing is nothing too crazy in the voice department. We're just going to be lowering it and making it sound more conniving. So the first element is how fast they talk. I imagine that they talk really, really sort of smooth, slow. They want to sort of sound nice, and they want to sound like they're reasonable, like they're reasoning with you. And they're very careful with their words, but there's just something off. They're also very kind of arrogant, and they totally would be the types of creatures that like to hear themselves talk. So I imagine that they're going to talk really long. So sort of drawing out your words and moving around, sort of meandering in your tone, sort of create an upward and downward movement, sounding very, very, how to say, interesting. And then there's sort of this judgment, this downward judgment that you're creating in the voice, like, how dare you address me? Something like that. So the next element of the voice is the pitch. I imagine that they kind of have a bit of a lower pitch, but it dances around. So it goes like from high to low, and then sort of moving around as they talk. Sort of like the elf video I did, where you got the element where the elf is dancing around. He's going from these high pitches to these low pitches and talking really slow and eloquent. And then the last part is the constriction. So this is completely optional. I don't really constrict my drow much. I think just lowering the pitch a little bit makes them sound threatening enough. But if you want to, you could kind of add a little bit of a graveliness in there. I see you've come from far away. Yes, you could be useful. That's a constricted, and then without that, I see you've come from far away. You could be useful, perhaps. And then the last element is loudness. They are very stealthy creatures. They live in the dark. So I just imagine you could kind of characterize that in the voice by making them very quiet. They don't really need to be loud. They just like to talk, which would make for some really fun moments of your character kind of just monologuing on about something, and then some other player just interrupts them, and they can like harumph and, and they can like huff and walk away or whatever. So you've got this element, this voice. R.A. Salvatore, the first book in the Dark Elf trilogy he made was called Homeland. How interesting. A prequel to the Icewind Dale trilogy. It follows the story of Drizzt Do'Urden from the time and circumstances of his birth and his upbringing amongst the Drow. Quotations, dark elves. Dark elves, such a strange word for such a superior type of elf. They're also incredibly racist. Dark elves hate pretty much anything that's not a dark elf. They'll do business with like dark dwarves or Duergar or other evil things, but then in their doing business with evil things, there's always that element of betrayal. Like, if it benefits them, they will screw over whoever. It does not matter. So you can really sort of bring out that treacherous, condescending sounding, arrogant, and just malevolent type of personality. So they're, all right, I know with your nobleness you'll be surely splitting the gold that you found that was rightfully mine with the party, yes. You could always add a little bit of constrictions as he goes lower to kind of get that, Drizzt Do'Urden. Have you enjoyed your stay in Menzoberranzan? Drow also communicate in hand signs, and they are very, very, very distrustful. So things that would just make normal sense, that are just like kind, like, hey, how are you doing? They'd be like, what's up? Why are you being nice to me? What do you want from me? Why did you say I did a good job? I don't understand what you're playing at. That's something you can always bring out, sort of as a quirk of this character, is whenever anyone compliments him, it just drives them nuts. They don't understand it. They cannot understand things like kindness, affection, gifts, and housewarming parties. They'd look around. When do the assassins get here? I've seen this before. Like a drow shows up to a housewarming party and sees a bunch of people running around and giving gifts to each other and smiling, and he's just sitting there stewing in the back corner. Oh, there's too much movement. The windows are opened. Clearly, there's an assassination coming at any moment. This reminds me of an old party I went to. And he's just sitting there stewing and hatching his next, theory on where the assassin's going to come in or something like that. It adds a lot of, fun, sort of silly and ironic moments to the character that can really bring some laughs out at a table. Beyond that, really all I have is just a recommendation. If you've never heard of the Legend of Drizzt series, totally go check it out. Look up Homeland by R.A. Salvatore. Give it a listen on an audiobook, or I think you can find some PDFs online probably to read through it. It's a really, really good book. But be warned, it is very dark. So viewer discretion is advised, but it has a sort of hopeful journey of, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's very good. If you like Drow, definitely go check that out. Anyways, whatever you bring to your table, remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. Have fun with it and stay awesome.